Flavio, thank you for being here at PyCon Colombia 2020.
Sure.
Thank you for being here in Medellin.
Thank you guys for having me.
As a first question, could you give us a brief description of Elastic as a company?
Yeah, so Elastic, the company, is the company behind Elasticsearch and the whole Elastic Stack. So Elastic Stack is, actually we should probably talk about Elasticsearch. So Elasticsearch is our search engine. It's a data store where you can put a lot of data and have it all analyzed and processed for you to do searches later. And it's the core of our Elastic Stack. So Elastic Stack also adds some extra layers to it. And the first layer is, I guess the first layer on top is the visualization one, which is called Kibana. It's our product to visualize your data, create dashboards, see all the history, throughout the a specific timeline, I guess.
Okay.
We also have some other products that you can use to collect data from your infrastructure, from your application, and store that data all in Elasticsearch. So Elasticsearch is the core of our entire stack,
okay.
But we're well known for our entire stack and how powerful it is.
Okay, and you say that there is a stack of products. You talk about Elasticsearch, the search engine, and also Kibana, which is the visualization. Are there any other products that?
Yeah, so we have Bits. Bits is what we call the lightweight data shippers, basically. So they're you can think of Bits as small agents that you install in your infrastructure. So you can install, for instance, there's one that's called FileBit, and you put it in your server, and it's just gonna crawl all your files and get data off of it, and then put it in Elasticsearch. You have MetricBit, which collects data from your metrics on your infrastructure, and like CPU usage, memory, and all that, and it just stores all that in Elasticsearch. And it helps you monitoring your entire infrastructure. But it doesn't stop there. Like if you have logs, you can analyze all your logs. We have Logstash, which is like another service that you can use for either collecting log or as a pipeline to process streams of data that you want to store in Elasticsearch. And on top of these, there are other combinations that you can use. There are other plugins that you can use. There's APM, which depending on the language that you're using and the framework that you're using, you can plug our APM plugins and just have it collect information for your application and get all that information stored in Elasticsearch so that you can analyze how many requests you get per second, how many responses, how many of those responses were errors. If there are errors, what kind of errors you have, and even how long it takes for a specific function to actually respond to the requester, I guess, the caller. And that allows you to analyze and monitor your application, basically, and try to find bottlenecks and things that you might want to improve, or just keep an eye on things and make sure that they work properly.
Okay. Since this is a Python conference, how Elastic contributes to Python community, or how Elastic? Yeah.
So first and foremost, open source is extremely important to us. It is the core of the company. The Elasticsearch product, it was created as an open source product before there was a company behind it. And all of our products are open source. You can go to the Elastic organization on GitHub, and you'll find so many lines of code that you can go through and run yourself, read and learn from them, and just contribute to it if you're feeling to. Python is well used within the company to provide services and utilities within the company. But it's also super important for us to actually be able to communicate with Elasticsearch using Python. There are so many applications out there, so many frameworks. Python is a very well-known language nowadays that many people are using on the server side, basically, or for whatever reason, I guess, that you want to use it. And so we sponsor PyCon Colombia because we want the Latin America community to grow, because Python is extremely important for us as a company, because we have bindings to talk to Elasticsearch that are all written in Python. We have plugins for various Python frameworks like Django, Flask, and some other frameworks out there so that we can monitor your application. So it's not only well used within the company, but it's also part of the tools that people can use to interact with Elasticsearch. So it's kind of like a very core language to us, and it's not only like a Latin American conference that we want to community to grow with, but it's also a very known language that we use.
Cool. Another question: which would be the difference or the key difference between a search engine like Elasticsearch, a common database?
I guess we always describe Elasticsearch as a search engine or a data store, but we tend to describe it more as a search engine because we want to make a differentiation between what a data store is and a search engine is. If you take a relational database, I think the main difference is in how they store data on disk. All the data in Elasticsearch is is basically indexed unless you explicitly tell it to not index the data. And which means that all the data you store in Elasticsearch is somehow analyzed by the Elasticsearch, and is stored in a way that is ready to be searched. Whereas in a database, you have a more structured data structure, I guess. And this doesn't mean that Elasticsearch doesn't have a data structure. Elasticsearch has a data structure. It has a mapping for every document that you store in it. The difference is how dynamic those documents are and how those documents are stored inside, in your disk, basically, when they're put in disk, right? So I think that's the core and the main difference, and that we can diverge into so many other differences in how we treat types and how we treat like nested documents and what kind of queries you can do. But I think the most important one when we're talking about storing data is how the actual data is stored on disk.
And which common applications you can use Elasticsearch? If I am a new developer and I have an application to do which requires like storage and search, how would I like introduce Elasticsearch to the stack of software?
All right. So depending on the kind of data that you need to store, the kind of application that you want, like everything in the industry, it really depends. But depending on the kind of data that you want to store in it, you might want to use Elasticsearch as your main data store. But in some other cases, you could just use it as the data store where you're going to put the data that you just want to search, right? Like you have your relational data in some other relational database, but the data that you are going to be running queries on that you need, like specific queries, like smarter queries, let's say, then you're going to put it on Elasticsearch. There are some cases where Elasticsearch can be your main data store, and that's absolutely fine. One interesting case that I'm pretty sure many people are going to be familiar with is Wikipedia. Wikipedia uses Elasticsearch in the back. So whenever you're doing a query on Wikipedia, that's running through Elasticsearch.
Oh, that's nice. Well, as a final question, you were talking about like open source. How would you like invite people to contribute or to develop software which is to be like open source license?
I mean, you can think about it, and there are different ways to address things. You can think about it in a way to contribute back to the technical community. You can think about it about building a community and growing the community. You can think about the problems that you're trying to solve and whether some other people have the same problems that you have. It is not true that you cannot build a business around open source. A good example is Elastic, the company itself. There are many examples like Red Hat and other big companies that have built amazing businesses behind open source projects. And you can be truthful open source and still be able to build your own business. So it really, depending on the project that you're trying to tackle and the kind of services and problems that you want to solve for the world and the impact that you want to have, you might want to decide whether to go with open source or not. Like open source has its pros and its cons as like anything else.
Yeah.
I'm a huge open source fan. That's how I learned programming. So that's also why it is so important to me for me to work for a company that is open source. And it's one of the reasons I'm at Elastic, actually.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much.